All right, y'all. So the number one book you should read if you're going into a residency or PT school, or if you're going to do anything that's going to be challenging or tough, and even if you're not, everybody in the world needs to read this book. But especially, I think, if you're going into a residency, it's Daring Greatly by Brené Brown. So I absolutely love this book. This book was sent to me by a friend when I started the residency. She had no clue that I was absolutely, totally going to love it. So I read slower than death, and I read this book in like a week and a half. And, I mean, you can kind of see I marked the heck out of it. I'm actually going to get a second copy so I can reread it again without all of my writing and sticky notes and post-it flags. But Brené Brown, if you're not familiar with her, she's a licensed clinical social worker. She also has her PhD, and she does a lot of work on emotion and a lot of qualitative research, which is super, super, super important, and I think is often overlooked by a lot of scientists because it's very difficult and hard to collect and harder to kind of quantify. And she goes a little bit in towards the end of the book on how she conducted her research and how she's kind of come to her conclusions on things. But she really talks a lot about vulnerability and shame and a way of approaching things and thinking about things in life and change and how we think of ourselves and how we think of others in a very honest and open and vulnerable way that's uncomfortable. And in a residency, things are going to get uncomfortable. Things are going to be hard, and you have to be super honest with yourself. And I mean, I'm only 10 weeks into full-on, residency with the clinic and everything. And I'm so happy that I read this book beforehand and was exposed to the ideas in it, and just how having the courage to be vulnerable, and I'm just reading this off the cover because it just fits, can transform how we live and how we act and how we see the world and how we treat others. And in this book, she goes into vulnerability and shame in a way that's really digestible and relatable. And multiple times reading through it, I was thinking of personal examples and examples with other people. And I could not get enough of it. And I think everybody that's going to do anything in their life that's difficult or worth doing needs to read this book, because you have to be comfortable with being vulnerable and saying, I don't know what the answer is, or I don't know how I feel about this, or I'm not ready for this yet, or I don't know if this is right where I belong right now, but I'm going to do my best to be here, and I'm going to put my hat in the ring. And that's why I'm wearing a Teddy Roosevelt shirt. He's one of my favorite people of all time is Teddy Roosevelt. He was a good president. He did a lot for conservation, which I'm passionate about. And the title for this book comes from a quote from Teddy Roosevelt, which I'm not going to read because it's kind of long, but I'll put it on the screen over here or something. But if you're going into residency at all, or you're graduating PT school and going to be entering the real world, or going into PT school or doing anything, everybody needs to read this book. You have to read this book. I cannot emphasize this book enough. As soon as I finished it, I texted like 20 people and I was like, you need to read this book. And some of them already had, and some of them were like, why are you telling me I need to read this book? Like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, look, you just need to read this book. Everybody needs to read this book. I'll put the link in the description below to it on Amazon. It's like $10-15 or something like that. But I highly encourage you to look at this. If you look at the link below on all of the podcasts, most of them are from Brené Brown. Most of those I've listened to 2 or 3 times just because I think she does fantastic work and has a great thought process. And I really enjoy the way she presents what she does on top of, just what she does. So I highly recommend this book for anybody going into residency. I know I've been talking to a few people about going into residency and they're starting the process. If there was one thing I would highly, highly advise you to do, even before the applications and all that other stuff, and well, maybe not before the applications because there's deadlines and money involved with those, but after the applications, before you spend extra time studying for the residency or extra time studying for boards or anything, I highly, highly recommend you read this book. And that's my little soapbox. I think you need to read this book. And I've probably said that a million different times, but I strongly, strongly recommend it. Thanks for watching.